I see ICT as something which is really, really important in our school.
It really opens up a whole new world in terms of how kids are actually learning.
If you think about young people's lives now, it's shaped by this technology. It's going to be a key part of how they work, it's going to be a key part of their leisure. It ought to really be central to people's thinking about learning in the 21st century.
After staff and facilities, ICT is the biggest item of expenditure for most schools.
The governors have a crucial role of asking the very, very important strategic question: how is our spend on technology aligned with our educational vision?
So we're taking Frances Stickley, Chair of Governors at King's Langley School, to see what she can learn from the ICT provision and management at the Bishop Stortford High School.
I've come to Bishop Stortford today to try and understand how a centre of excellence for ICT works and what we can learn from it.
Bishop Stortford High School, a secondary school for boys, was the joint winner in 2007 of the Bector ICT Excellence Award for Leadership and Management. Andrew Goulding, the head teacher, has played a key role in laying the foundations for successful ICT provision.
In 2002 I put together a team of people, ICT strategy management team, to look at the status quo as it was then and to do a bit of visioning as to where we ought to be going. I employed a consultant for 2 days and that team put together a strategic plan which we called Towards 2010 to give an idea of moving forward.
What has come out of that plan now? What have been your deliverables so far?
Very early on we gave all of the staff laptop computers. We installed a wireless network system throughout the whole school. The next main thing was the implementation of interactive whiteboards. One of the other critical success factors was the appointment of a director of e-learning, and it's his primary responsibility, along with the heads of subject, to make sure that ICT is delivered appropriately in the classrooms right across the curriculum, and it is he, more than anybody else, that keeps his eyes on emerging technologies.
The director of e-learning is Andrew Hood. He's also an assistant head and a business studies teacher. He has a number of hours a week to focus on e-learning.
It was clear that one of the key priorities was to embed ICT into the everyday practice of teachers, and therefore one of the key roles really is for me to act as the interface between sort of strategic level thinking and decision making and that of the classroom practitioner.
What subjects do you think have benefited the most from the integral use of ICT?
We're finding that areas of the curriculum that you perhaps wouldn't naturally associate with ICT are adopting it, and for example PE.
If you take the memory card out of that into the laptop and then we'll look at analysing it.
In a PE class, students are filming their goal scoring techniques and reviewing them frame by frame with the help of a software package.
Using computing and ICT in PE has a fantastic place really. From a point of view of analysis, if pupils can actually see themselves perform and then you can identify where they are going wrong and where they are going right, and for them to actually see that, I think their improvements are a lot more.
So what training in ICT do the PE staff receive?
We basically have insets where we give each other bits of training where, you know, to enhance everyone's strengths and weaknesses.
Now one of them is a good performer, one of them is a bad performer.
What we try and do is seek out pockets of good practice and use those practitioners to present and promote their own skills and share with other colleagues what they do in the classroom. And in that way we have an in-house expertise that builds up over time.
At the end of the day, the learner's experience is shaped by what the teacher can and can't offer. So there is a big issue around teacher training. The schools that seem to be getting it right seem to be growing it through one curriculum area at a time, going with the sorts of things that are absolutely compelling for teachers.
Annotate on your screen what the key features of that opening may be.
The English department is trialling the use of tablets where students are able to write directly onto the screen. In this GCSE class, students are annotating a Times article about single-sex education. The teacher then uses software, enabling him to beam any student's work onto the whiteboard for the class to discuss.
Rule of 3, trepidation, fear and loathing. Is that an effective triplet? Why have you underlined it?
Because it's representing the fears of a modern teenager.
These guys here, they're top sets GCSE class, and they've done tasks like this before, and I think this way kind of really tries to give them this fresh approach, kind of new, kind of sensational way into the text. And it's also fantastic for them to share ideas. You know, they can beam their work to someone else across the room. They can be very critical about their writing, and we think that's very useful in English.
One important government initiative which all schools must now be addressing is the provision of a personal online learning space for every student. At the Bishop Stortford High School, this is provided by the school's Virtual Learning Environment, or VLE.
We were fairly early adopters, as they say, on the VLE, and it was really a frustration of mine as a teacher that the students that I taught didn't have access outside the classroom to many of the resources that they needed. And that actually coincided with the government announcement that by the end of 2008, all pupils should have access to a personal learning space.
Simon Etheridge, a religious studies teacher, shows Francis how he uses the school's VLE.
There are different sections which correspond to the different year groups, and if we click, for example, at the Year 13 course, what will come up are a collection of notes that we've made over the last 2 or 3 years, the staff in the RS department, and we've put them on there for the students. Now, these we would have given out in lessons, but students may lose them. It allows us to put extra reading up on here for gifted and talented students, and all those resources are on there for the students, particularly important when it comes to revisions and exams. And the other side to the coin to how we use it is very much in terms of assessment. Students have the opportunity to submit work online, which we can then mark.
So what about students using the VLE?
I use it mostly at home, where I can access all my sheets and things that the teacher has given out to us. So I can always just go back over them wherever I am for things like revision.
And I believe you can use it as a discussion forum, is that right, Ben?
Yeah, I have contributed to the music forum.
And how useful do you find it, Tom?
I used it a lot for RS coursework, and created a sort of a process with the teacher where I submitted work, and then the teacher would look at it, make adjustments or suggest things, and then submit back, and that way we could do it all from home.
But what about students who don't have access to a computer at home?
The big question, can we get to the point where we could have a real sustainable plan that meant that every disadvantaged household should have access to learning through technology? And I think government's recognising that that's doable as well. Already there's a programme called the Computers for Pupils programme, which aims to reach 100,000 of the most disadvantaged learners.
Another aspect of ICT at any school is the collection and use of management information.
We've got lots of information on lots of different areas of school life. We've got attendance data. All teachers take their registration electronically through the system so that we can pick up any attendance issues over a term. We've also got attainment data. From that we can identify whether the students are overachieving or underachieving, and obviously if they're underachieving we can put steps, measures in place.
The school's traffic light system makes it extremely easy to see how any student is performing. Green means overachieving, red is underachieving, and amber means on track.
All staff have access to this information, and certain staff have more detailed access to be able to interrogate it in a bit more depth.
And is it possible for parents to access this data?
Hopefully in the future with real-time reporting, parents will have access to the assessment data throughout the year for their student, and will be able to show the parents whether they are on target or not.
Real-time reporting is a government initiative requiring all schools to offer parents access to online information about their children by 2010.
Government and everybody has recognised that parents are key partners in the learning of their children, and that the annual report or the termly report just simply isn't enough to get them engaged effectively. It's taking a lid off the learning in the school, so I as a parent can go and see, how is my kid getting on this week? What have they done well? What have they not done so well? And that's what we're talking about when we talk about real-time reporting.
Next item on the agenda is to look at the website.
Driving all the various strands of ICT provision and development at the school is the ICT Strategy Committee.
We actually had students giving us some insight into what they wanted on this, so it's as close as we could get, I think, to the design that they came up with.
We actually have a single focus and a single idea of where the school's going in terms of ICT. The representation on that committee is right from sort of finance right through, obviously, to the leadership of the headmaster and to the technical guys who keep the networks and systems running, and all can contribute to the debate about where the school needs to prioritise its resources in terms of its ICT development.
Look across any area of life that takes technology seriously. They manage the technology at the most senior level. It's about looking across all the things that the school does and asking the questions about what do we need to manage to make sure we get that value from the technology.
Ian, as a governor, parent perspective, what do you make of it?
Oh, it looks very good. Much cleaner, much more professional. I like it.
Ian Hudson is Deputy Chair of Governors with special responsibility for ICT. The governors have challenged the school over various plans for ICT.
As with so many things in schools, money is the real issue. As you know, it's possible to spend many hundreds of thousands of pounds on IT, and it's about trying to make sure that the money we do spend, we're getting value for. So classically, the issue of how many interactive whiteboards do we need in the school. Given a free range, the head would probably like 30 or 40 or 50, but in the real world, one has to be pragmatic and say, well, let's start with a few, dozen, 15, 16 and work up.
What about the governing body itself?
We're gradually getting into the 20th, if not the 21st century when it comes to communication. Everything now, more or less, is email, so there's very little paper before meetings.
The next step Ian wants to see is for governors to have online access to management and monitoring information.
To actually give governors more insight into what's actually going on in the school, rather than to say, here are 24 attachments to this email which you need to have a look at before the meeting, to say on an ongoing basis, this is where you get information about all the various things that are going on in the school.
What are the next developments the ICT Strategy Committee will be considering?
Well, we've got, obviously, the real-time reporting issue is a biggie, and we've got some significant issues to discuss with regards to infrastructure upgrade, particularly in terms of providing handheld devices for Year 7s coming into the school from the beginning of 2009-2010.
It's been a busy fact-finding day for Frances. What has she found most useful?
I've had a great day here at Bishop Stortford, and I've taken away quite a few good learning points for us to improve at King's Langley. The strategic leadership that Bishop Stortford has brought to his ICT provision, I think, is key. I also think that there's a lot of techniques that I've seen today around innovative use of IT tools that we could use. But the most important thing for me is their mature use of the virtual learning environment, and I'm hoping that we're going to really be able to grow our virtual learning environment and work with it to get the best use out of it, both for the staff and for the students.